name is Christine McComas, and as you've heard, I'm Grace's mom. And you see before you two heartbroken parents, but I hope that today you will hear Grace's voice because it's her that we speak for, because she can't speak for herself. In 2013, our family appeared before this committee, along with my husband and two of our older daughters. And we spoke of the need for Grace's Law, which at that time was really what was bringing cyber abuse of children to the fore. Grace was a wonderful human being, and that's not news to anyone who knew her. She was well loved. And she was literally a bright light from birth. With bright blue eyes that sparkled, she had a personality that matched. She was funny, often exuberantly happy. And she was kind-hearted, and she was just a joy to be around. In 2013, though David and I were barely able to function, but also still today, we were able to draw on a deep well of devastation, of confusion and anger at how a child that was literally born happy could be lost to suicide. She had everything to live for. And we felt we had an alarm bell to ring. And I'm telling you today that that bell is still clanging, and that's why we're here. We continue to hear of children that are abused, and let's call it what it is. Cyberbullying makes it sound like, oh, bullying's been happening forever, don't worry about it. This is the abuse of children. We are still hearing about it. Children are being maimed and being stripped of their human dignity by the misuse of social media. For Grace, what started as an uninvestigated drug-assisted sexual assault of a naive 14-year-old turned into a horror story of fear, isolation, and trauma with the addition of cyber abuse, hatred, harassment, and intimidation, and our inability to protect her or ever even see anyone held responsible. A healthy and communicative team, we knew what was happening and exhausted all options trying to help her. And instead, we ended up watching her demise like a slow-motion car wreck. She died from despair, suffering from anxiety, depression, and PTSD exacerbated by cyber abuse. You heard some of the tweets. I ask you to please read our testimony because there's more. Social media and Twitter in particular were brand new then, and adults were largely unaware of what was going on behind the scenes, or of the psychological damage and dangers of malicious and dehumanizing cyberbullying that's instantly amplified to entire peer groups. It's invasive, it's pervasive, and it never goes away. For a young teen that knew that we'd searched and even begged for assistance from schools, police, courts, and other professionals with little response, it seemed insurmountable. In the years since Grace's death, adults have become much more aware of how digitally interconnected our kids are and the devastating impact that these things can have. But unfortunately, we now regularly see adults who misuse social media to publicly demean and insult others, even at the highest levels of our government. The malicious nature of our public discourse not only sets a poor example for our children, I believe that it threatens our unity and civility as a nation. Name-calling, rudeness, hatred are assaults on the human dignity of every single one of us, and it must not be normalized. As the proliferation of cyber equipment and applications continues to grow, children need additional protections from those who would use it for harm. Terms like catfishing, sextortion, suicide baiting, the new dangers keep mounting, and we have not kept up. In the past year, I have received multiple pleas from Maryland families, including 12-year-old daughters being hounded for explicit photos or being repeatedly told to kill themselves. There are local cases and those that span the globe of children who have been exploited via social media and then literally hounded to death afterwards by cyber abuse. And in cases where a child has bravely stood up and asked for help from adults, or other places, often there is a retaliatory explosion of cyber hatred aimed right back at them. Children need these protections. We owe it to them not only to pass the laws, but to make the effort and to take the effort and the time to make these laws known so the protections will work and act as a deterrent. Finally, I want to say 6 years later, I'm regularly hearing of people who have never heard of Grace's Law, including people who needed it and were in touch with authorities that should have known, or either they didn't know or they didn't share for some reason. Finally, as a community and as a nation, we must speak up and out about the need for grace. And in this context, grace, G-R-A-C-E, stands for give, respect, and compassion to everyone. I believe it's the way to a world of health and peace for our children, and I'm hoping that much like the way we see drunk driving as the dangerous crime that it is today, that we look back to this moment and see that it was when we acted boldly to protect our children and to try to make those progresses towards civility and kindness through social change. I urge you to speed HB 181 into law, and I thank you for hearing us today in memory of our beloved Grace Catherine McComas.
Thank you very much.